your stage presence is so evident. Like, you don't look scared at all when you're on stage.
I'm always nervous. Like, I'm always so scared. Oh my goodness. But I saw this video and Beyonce was like saying that she gets nervous, but it's because she cares. And so I was like, Beyonce gets nervous, then like I could be nervous as well. I heard this one quote and it was just like 5 seconds of like being courageous or brave could like change your life. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I was 9 years old and I was scrolling on my parents' computer and I found this video of Willow Smith for her music video Whip My Hair.
Yep.
I don't know, something about that video got me. And in that moment I was like, I want to do exactly what she's doing. Like, it just looks so cool. From there on I was like, I am going to be a singer, whatever I need to do. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't know like what you had to do. My parents weren't in the industry either. But yeah, I just remember like searching up on YouTube like how to sing, like what do you need to do? Finally getting a guitar at 12 and trying to teach myself off of YouTube.
Let's talk about some greats and maybe not so great tendencies like that come with like having Nigerian parents.
Oh, okay. I feel like, okay.
I made a way and no burning these bridges. I keep on stacking these digits. Money and let's think about a new business. I'm in a million a minute. I'm in a million a minute. I'm in a million a minute.
All right, welcome. We're back with For the Record, of course, by the Certified Platinum Network. My name is Christo. I have the honor to be in the presence of an amazing R&B artist here from the city, Bukola.
Hey, thanks for having me.
How are you doing today? How's your energy feeling? How you doing?
Good. It's raining, which is typical for Vancouver.
Very standard.
It's a classic Vancouver day, but no, I'm excited to be here and excited to talk with you today.
Thank you for your time. We've been looking forward to this conversation. I have personally had you like on my list of people to talk to for like the longest time, especially with your album that had just recently come out, of course, the Confessions of an Antisocial Butterfly. Yeah, what was the exact date that came out? That wasn't that long ago, was it?
Yeah, January 31st, so the end of January.
Your debut album.
Yeah, I like to call it an EP.
Okay.
I know it's probably technically an album with like how long it is and stuff, but I'm always just like, it's an EP. I'm not ready for an album just yet. But it's definitely like a long body of work for sure, but I'm so proud of it and I'm excited that it's finally out.
Right, yeah. No, I guess a few of the songs had already kind of come out as singles before you put it out, so I guess finally putting it together into like a body of work. I guess I don't know exactly how many additional songs came on top of that, but maybe it would like. The way I see it is artists today, like if you want to call it an EP, I'll call it an EP. If you want to call it an album, I'll call it an album. If it's a mixtape, it's a mixtape, you know, whatever it is.
Like Dochi's project.
Yeah, exactly. Like most people would call that's an album, but she won the Grammy for a mixtape, right?
Yes.
So pretty impressive. I always like to start off with like the beginning, like the origin story and like kind of how you got started. I guess to start off, you did grow up here in Vancouver, is that right?
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Born and raised. My parents are from Nigeria, and so they came here in the 90s, and they didn't actually meet each other till they got here. Which I think is like really cool. And I have five siblings, and we grew up in Coquitlam, which is suburbs of Vancouver, I guess. And yeah, my dad was always playing music in the car. He'd play a lot of like traditional Nigerian artists.
Right, yeah.
And I didn't understand what they were singing about. And the way the traditional Nigerian music works is like there's no like verse, chorus, bridge. Like it's just like 30 minutes of them just keep singing and like very, very rhythm based. And so I remember hearing it and like not being super like excited about it all the time, but I think I've grown to appreciate that because my dad has just a huge love of music, and I think that's where my love of music came from.
Kind of translated over to you. Do you know like the names of some of those artists that he would listen to at all? Or?
Yeah. Okay. And I've grown to love them now. So like this is I'm saying their names and I'm like I have appreciation and respect and love for them. Yeah. But yeah, there's King Sunny Ade, who's like I really love his stuff. He plays guitar, which is really cool. I remember asking my dad, I was like, do you think I'm a good guitar player? And he was like, you're not as good as King Sandy, but like, you know, you're aight.
I'm dead.
But I love his stuff. And then my dad's favorite artist is probably this guy named Barista, who passed away, unfortunately, but definitely like a huge pioneer within like traditional Nigerian music genre.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they like laid the groundwork for artists like Wizkid, Burna, like all those guys that are out now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's neat. So like what made you move towards music and like maybe not down another path maybe that could have been carved for you?
Yeah. So I was 9 years old and I was scrolling on my parents' computer as a 9-year-old kid does. And I found this video of Willow Smith for her music video Whip My Hair.
Yep.
And
classic.
I don't know, something about that video got me. Like she looked like me, was like similar in age, and she was so confident and she just looked like she was having so much fun.
Yeah.
And in that moment I was like, I want to do exactly what she's doing. Like it just looks so cool. And
yeah.
I don't know, I was just so inspired. And so from there on, I was like, I am going to be a singer, whatever I need to do. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't know like what you had to do. My parents weren't in the industry either. But yeah, I just remember like searching up on YouTube, like how to sing, like what do you need to do? And then finally getting a guitar at 12 and trying to teach myself off of YouTube. So in the beginning it was very DIY, but I'm grateful like ever since I've had some really awesome people help me out and learn, and I've gotten the opportunity to learn from some really great people. So
awesome. Yeah,
but it was a very do-it-yourself approach in the beginning.
Absolutely. And I think that like most, like I don't know, depending on what year kind of it started off at, it really became like YouTube University for most things. Like even what we do here, like searching on a camera what ISO and what white balance is. I learned all of that from YouTube University. Like
it's a great resource, right? And it's just like at your fingertips, because in the beginning, like I couldn't afford to pay for guitar or vocal lessons, and so there's so many videos and tutorials online that are super comprehensive. And like I think the great thing about guitar and a lot of other musical instruments as well, like it's very intuitive to learn. And so it's not a huge leap like trying to find some YouTube video and teaching you how to do a certain skill or whatever. So yeah, it's really cool that we live in a time where like you're able to learn stuff on your own. And if you don't have the money to do something, the door isn't shut immediately. There's other pathways, which is so great. So.
When you were younger, were you part of any type of like, whether it be like choirs or anything of that sorts that maybe honed in like your vocal abilities, or did that just kind of come naturally to you?
No, well, when we first went to this church, they had this program for kids called the Kids Choir. And so my mom was like, you guys are gonna do this today. So we did that for all throughout elementary school. And I think that was really fun, just getting to sing with other people. And we did like baby harmonies, but like it was just such a great experience. So I think honestly, like having the experience of like singing in the church was like super helpful. And then obviously school had choir, which I was always like, sign me up. I am there.
There you go.
So yeah, I would say like the choir at church and school was definitely super helpful in terms of just like getting that first bit of formal music education.
And then so I guess when you like look at where you were at that point in time and you see yourself like now, how would you describe like, I guess in hindsight, because you can only really kind of look back and be like, wow, like I've come a long way. How would you describe your progression like since then?
Ooh, that's such a good question. Wow, I've never even thought of that before. I would say like I've just become more curious and always just trying to learn and grow, and the growth has never stopped. And like since being in the kids choir at school or at church, like I started working with this teacher in Toronto who's been amazing and has taught me so much. But then also too, just like I feel like the music that I listen to has matured as well, and listening to like Brandy and Whitney and just like Etta James, like all of these like incredible singers, and you're just like, how are they doing this? Like, whoa, there's so much more to like the voice than just like what I initially thought of. And so I don't know, I would just say like the progression has just been more curiosity and just like continuing to elevate and trying to get better every single.
For sure. I feel like whether it be even in your field or really any creative field, it's the initial curiosity and like want to be in that space.
Yes.
And then from that point, for the rest of the time, it's just constantly honing in like on your creativity. Like I'm sure at first it was just like sheet music that was handed to you in the choir and sing this.
Just exactly.
And then now it's how do I translate my emotions into the music that I want. So I feel like, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I always feel like it's that creativity that you're always having to kind of re-explore as you kind of go into deeper and deeper into whatever you're doing. Then that kind of defines, you know, your progression. I don't know.
Absolutely. And like, I love what you said about, you know, when you're younger and you're in choirs, especially, you're given stuff to sing and you just sing what's on the page. Yeah. But then, you know, finding your artistry and realizing like I can also write my own stuff. Yeah. I can, you know, say what I want to say and sing what I want to sing, and create that. I think is such a beautiful discovery. And, I don't know. I think that's just such a beautiful thing to look back on. I feel like younger me would be like, you have your own songs? Like, wow, this is so cool. So yeah, definitely come a long way since reading off the page. Yeah,
that's awesome. What would you say are like common themes that you express in your music, I guess now? Like, I have some that like in listening to your music that I kind of think like, certain things that I'm noticing that like are common themes, but do you have like in your mind, if you can think of now, are there anything that like you like to sing about or things that you like to keep in mind when writing songs? Or
yeah, I mean, at the core, I like to write about my life and what I'm going through, and just being super honest with those experiences, because I think before I would try to write about what I thought was cool and what I thought like other people might want to hear. But yeah, I guess a lot of the stuff is either about like introversion, unrequited love is like a huge thing that I write about, and then also too just like my identity as, you know, a Nigerian Canadian girl in the suburbs with Nigerian parents.
So that makes me so happy because I feel like I was listening correctly, because what I wrote down here is self-empowerment. Hopeless romanticism and identity is what I wrote as like what I kind of feel like.
Okay.
So and I think that what's easy about, or what's great about your music is that it's easily digestible in the sense that you kind of know what is trying to be said. A lot of times like you can hide it into metaphors and things of that sort, which is always nice. Yeah. But sometimes it's nice to like know right away like kind of what the song message is portraying. So. Yeah. That's really nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I guess getting into the album, I had a few things I want to talk about the album, Confessions of an Antisocial Butterfly. Make sure you stream it on all your digital streaming platforms. From when I was listening to it, and then I'll just maybe talk a little bit. Again, I kind of really got like the trope of hopeless romanticism, which I find to be something that's it's relatable in the sense that it speaks to the tropes of a young girl that's likely going through the exact same experiences that you are, which kind of makes it, you know, it has its, I guess, it's easy how I'm able to see how that particular demographic could like hear your music and like fall in love with it, or like be able to relate to it immediately. Yeah. And maybe even if you're past that point, like maybe an older woman, maybe you can hear your music and think back to like, oh, I remember going through these same things.
That means so much that you said that, because a huge goal with this project was to create music and build a community around the art. And I was like, the only way that I'm gonna be able to successfully do that is if I'm being super, super honest with myself and being authentic and trying to build genuine relationships, which ultimately come through honesty. And so, yeah, really, you know, writing honestly about the things that I was going through and things that I was feeling, and then, you know, getting messages of like, oh, this song like really resonates with me, or like I was listening to this and like this totally describes XYZ in my life. It's just been such a rewarding experience, because I'm just like, yay, like the music is connecting, which is like so cool, because you write the songs and you know, alone or in your room, and I have to shout out Desiree Dawson, who I wrote a bunch of these songs with, because she's absolutely incredible.
Shout out Desiree.
Shout out Desiree. But you know, you write the songs and it's kind of like a isolated process in a way, and then to hear that like people are listening and resonating with it is such a beautiful thing. So,
for sure.
I love that you touched on that.
And it's
the story.
Again, I think that it's always important, kind of no matter what you're doing, you got to know kind of who you're talking to. I guess you can make like pop music where it's like easily digestible by anybody and it's for the masses, but I'm always kind of amazed, and I love music that's like to a particular audience, because maybe if it doesn't connect to myself, I know that it will connect to somebody else significantly more because they are relating to what you're going through, right? So track 101.6 Hogan's Alley FM. How you feeling?
Full title. Okay.
Hey, we got the facts here. I guess Hogan's Alley. I have understanding of the background of what Hogan's Alley is, but maybe for somebody that maybe either isn't from Vancouver, doesn't really know what that is, or is from Vancouver, has kind of heard Hogan's Alley before, but maybe doesn't entirely know what that or where that is. Talk a little bit about that and like how, like what it means to you.
Yeah. So I think a huge part of that was between releasing my first project and this project, I kind of became disillusioned with Vancouver. And I just had this obsession with Toronto. I was like, I need to be in Toronto. Like, that's where all the R&B is. That's where all the Black people are. Like, I need to go. I need to leave. And then I really had to learn to, to love my city and recognize the beauty in it and the rich history that we have. And through doing that, I discovered Hogan's Alley, which is Vancouver's first and, if not mistaken, only like Black neighborhood, historically Black neighborhood. And just learning about the roots and Jimi Hendrix's grandma. Like,
Jimi Hendrix has a history here.
One of my favorite guitarists in the whole world had roots here. I was like, Vancouver is so dope. Vancouver is really lit, and I wanted to really show my pride for being from the city. And so I was like, okay, one way I can do this is explicitly having the name of that place in the title of one of the tracks. And so it's the name of the radio station that's featured on the EP, which is a little nod to Vancouver's Black history, which I don't think is honestly talked about enough.
Agreed.
But that's where the the inspiration is.
That's awesome. That's awesome, and I'm sure somebody's probably learned a little bit just from that, and the fact that you might not, some of these areas and the history, I guess kind of the evolution of Hogan's Alley in terms of how people were kind of pushed out at one point in time in order to build the Georgia Viaduct that exists there now. And there being a process to actually reclaim that land and repurpose it for, particular communities, whether it be Black or otherwise. It's something to definitely look into if you aren't aware of it, and kind of get the background, the history, especially if you are Black in the city, and understanding, there is a history, a deep-rooted history here from, way back. And again, names that you've probably heard of, like Jimi Hendrix, have roots here. So
just pretty dope.
Yeah, really dope, really dope. In terms of albums that have interludes and skits, I don't know if you have ever, like on your previous release, I don't know if you had maybe interludes or skits on that project as well. Is there a favorite album that you have that already exists, whether not from yourself, that kind of has that kind of thing? Maybe you pulled from that or anything?
Absolutely. There's so many records, but I would say the one that I drawed from the most was The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill.
Amazing.
One of my favorite records of all time, but I just remember listening to that and being so surprised that there were skits happening in between the songs. And I think because I was so used to the idea of an album just being song 1, song 2, song 3, song 4, and that's it. And so there was just this creative liberty that she took with it that I was so inspired by. And I started hearing that in other projects as well, like Beyonce's Lemonade. The visual album has poetry in between the videos, and I thought that was so beautiful as well. So yeah, I would say those two women definitely inspired me to take some creative liberty and try to create a whole world around the project.
Amazing. Yeah. For me myself, I also, that's one of the reasons why I love listening to albums too. And whenever a new album comes out, I think it's important to listen to it from top to bottom, the way that the artist designed for it to be listened to. Some of the early projects that I remember hearing that had a story, and again, I look at it as though the skits and the interludes kind of bring the album to life.
Yes.
They present a different aspect of it in terms of storytelling. Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick being the first one that I listened to that had, you know, Shireen and all that type of stuff going on within the album, and kind of brings it to life, and you understand kind of where Kendrick's coming from. Another maybe potentially controversial name, Tory Lanez, on his I Told You album. So actually that one's one where a lot of people don't like the skits on that. They think it's just a little bit too much. Like, I think it's like song, skit, song, skit, song, skit. So it can be a little bit much for people. And
hit or miss for sure.
Yeah, a lot of people that I know say they actually don't like the amount of skits, and maybe they have actually deleted all the interludes off of it and just listened to it, you know, song to song to song. But that's one that I remember hearing back whenever that dropped, and I was like, wow, this is, I really like this project, and, you know, there's a level of, again, poetry that comes with it. So yeah, I remember hearing that and enjoying that.
I think that's interesting that you bring that up, actually, because even when I was trying to formulate like the final track list with my producers, like it was literally going to be song, skit, song, skit, song, skit, and they were like, this might be a little like overwhelming maybe for listeners, like it might just be a little too much. And so like it was a super conscious decision to like figure out, okay, where do these skits need to be and how often, just so that it doesn't, you know, take away too from the music, which is the heart and soul of the project.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, they're there for the music. So yeah. I guess a lot of from when I listen to even like this album and just your other songs, there's a lot of instrumentation. It feels like you make the music with the mindset of it being performed live. It almost feels like.
That's crazy that you say that, because yes, that's always been my goal. And like I literally told my producers, like, this has to be music that can be replicated live and well, like not just like, oh, you know, we have the track doing this. So that's crazy that you bring that up, because that actually means so much to me.
No, that's really what it gives. And describe your process when you make the songs. Like, do you have live instrumentalists like in there? Are you listening to them, and like, or are you picking from different sound? Like, what's your process when it comes to that?
Yeah, so I play guitar, and so all the songs start off acoustic. And then the great thing about this one was that the songs were written like quite a while before I went to record them, so I had time to think about what I wanted the arrangements to sound like. And shout out to my producers, Baka and Brandon, who are a duo based in LA, but they're like musicians, so like they really understand chord progressions and arrangements, and they played on a bunch of the songs as well. And I got to have live horns for Taste of Freedom, which was really fun.
Wow, okay.
And then this duo in Vancouver, Caleb and Brian Chan, who are my favorites, they played live strings on I'm Not From California. That was a huge goal for me, just to have way more live instrumentation.
For sure.
I just remember seeing this video of Savannah Ray, who's this incredible Toronto R&B artist, and it was just like a behind the scenes of her like making her first EP, and I saw like a violin player coming in the studio to record, and I was like, wow, I didn't know people could do that. Like, I didn't know you can bring people to like come play stuff live, and it doesn't all have to be on the computer. So yeah, that was a huge thing for me. So it really means a lot that you noticed that.
Yeah, no, most definitely. I guess you said previously that like you learned you know, how to play the guitar very young. What does it mean to you in the context of like a song? Like describe the importance of having like whether it be any string instrument, but particularly, you know, guitar on your songs. Yeah,
I guess that's like at the core. My music is my voice, the lyrics, and the guitar. The guitar has always just been a through line, and it's just a sense of home for me. And so all of the songs that I put out, it just has to be able to be replicated with just me and the guitar, like stripped down. It has to sound like good, and so that's why the guitar just means so much to me. So it's like in every single song. It's like, I don't know, just the signature Bukola thing, shtick, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely something that makes things feel authentic to me as well too. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
I think that it's important that in and of itself is a message in terms of cutting the fat when it comes to anything. Like, it's nice to have your song with different synthesizers and different type of things happening on the record, but giving yourself the ability to simply cut the fat and have it just be you and the song, or you and the guitar, like, it's important to be able to do that, you know, when the need for it comes. Like, I guess in my context, you know, I have Gilbert here with me helping shoot. We've got multiple cameras set up, but when it comes down to the core of it, I have the ability to just go on live stream and just be me and the camera, one-on-one, one-man show, and just being able to cut the fat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think no matter what you're doing, it's important to be able to do that when you need to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think just like being able to just go on stage and play the guitar has been super huge for me, especially starting out, because I didn't really know any other players in the city who'd be able to like come and join me on stage for like performances or like it's like it costs a lot to like have a full band for everything, so like it really gave me the liberty to just like sign up for things and just like say yes to opportunities and just go there myself and do it. So I think you're right, just being able to do things and like scale up, but also being able to scale down.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge.
All right, so the next song that I had a few things to say about, Taste of Freedom. So that song, I felt as though, maybe not necessarily for myself, very relatable songs, like probably one of the most relatable songs that I've heard from like an artist of kind of your kind, especially here in our city. It kind of describes the experience of a daughter, and correct me if I'm wrong at any point, a daughter finally getting to enjoy like a taste of freedom, whether it be from like college or being able to travel or whatever it might be. Is that kind of what you were?
It's like so spot on.
Okay.
Oh my God. But I just found myself being able to travel to like Toronto and LA for music, and I had my own spot when I was there, and it was so liberating because I could do whatever, whenever, and I had never had that experience. And I just remember thinking about my friends who had moved away for like university or college, and you know they had their own dorm, and so they had their taste of freedom, I guess, like right when they graduated. And I go to a commuter school where everyone just takes the bus there and takes the bus back home. So I didn't have that. And so I don't know. It was just so liberating. Like I felt like a certified adult each time, I guess, just being in the city and in a new city and just doing everything on my own terms and not having anyone like looking over my neck, being like, "What are you doing? Like, why?" Like,
absolutely.
Just getting to do whatever, whenever.
Yeah, and I think that's again what songwriting is about, like the experiences that you have. I think there's a common thing where people need to like pull away from being like in the, whether it be like maybe not necessarily in the studio, but just being in like the circuit of being an artist and doing this show and that show, and sometimes you actually need to pull back and like experience life a little bit, so that you can write about, you have things to be able to write about or be able to talk about, and then you can come back and express that to the people. So
absolutely.
Yeah, were you releasing or writing a lot of music during that time that you were there, or?
Yeah. When I went to Toronto, that was for this showcase called North by Northeast, which is this annual music showcase that's put on there, which is really cool. But I was writing and I was meeting with other producers, and that was like a point in my life where I was really trying to learn my sound and what I wanted to say and what I wanted to write about. And that was also partly during the time where I was like, I need to be from Toronto. Like, I need to change my postal code. Like, I need to be from the city. And so they definitely had to really learn to like, pull back and, reassess and, find pride in my roots. So,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, not a lot of the music that I made when I was in Toronto necessarily at that time is stuff that I would put out, but I think it was such a great learning experience to get to just say everything on my mind.
Yeah, for sure, most definitely. Yeah. So the next song, I guess this is another Hogan's Alley interlude or skit. I don't know what you'd like to refer to it as. This one's the Freedom and Nigerian Parents one. Talk about that. Did you have to like play that for your parents? Like, what was have they heard it yet, or maybe no, or?
They don't know how to use Spotify or like Apple Music or anything, so they haven't heard it. But I really wanted to provide context for the song and beyond what people might have just assumed just by listening to it, and wanted to give people a little, taste of my life and
Absolutely.
what I was going through at the time. So yeah, I wrote the little radio script, and the person who does the voiceover on the project is Angeline Tedoeo.
Oh wow, okay. Shout out.
Yeah, shout out. She's the host of CBC's Black radio station called The Block, and so she was so down to be a part of it. And I wrote this little thing for her, gave her a whole backstory, and she was like, "Of course, like I'll do it." So very honored to have her on the project. But
did she take on the name DJ 604 for this, or was that actually what she goes by?
No, I wrote that in.
Oh, you wrote that in for her.
Really
okay.
wanted to rep Vancouver in like any way possible. So
Yeah.
like even having the DJ name being a nod to Vancouver and the station name as well. So, yeah.
Nah, I hope this doesn't get you in any hot water. Let's talk about some great and maybe not so great tendencies like that come with like having Nigerian parents.
Oh, okay. I feel like, okay. Greats is they really care about you. I feel like they always will see you like as their baby, and so they're always gonna care about where you are and like what you're doing. But it's out of such a place of love, which feels really good. There's never a time where it's like, okay, you're 29 now, like we don't care. It's like, no, we love you like throughout, which is really sweet. I think maybe sometimes that love constitutes with less freedom, which is why I was very happy when I wrote Taste of Freedom, and I was traveling and I was away for some time, but I loved them and it was great to come back. But yeah, I think sometimes the amount of freedom that you can have is a little different. I would talk to like a lot of like my friends, and they'd be like, yeah, just tell your parents you're just coming to stay at my house like for a sleepover. And I was like, yeah, my parents don't believe in sleepovers. Like that's not a thing at all. But yeah, I would say those are probably the two biggest things. Like they love you so much and they care about you so deeply, and it's such a blessing to be loved in that way. And then on the other hand, maybe the typical freedoms that one might have at my age,
don't exist.
They don't believe in that. So
yeah, and I think it's a common thing too. Like I will always I have Nigerian friends as well. It's always like when you're in that particular moment in time, it's like, oh, I hate this. My parents are overbearing, and then you get a little bit older, and it's like, okay, I don't know if I would let my kid do this either. And then you're in your like full adult phase. Maybe you're having kids at that point in time, and you're like, I am my mother, I am my father. And you really feel, okay, I understand where that comes from now.
Exactly, yeah. No, my parents are really sweet. Very, very wholesome beings.
Oh, that's great. What is the best piece of advice that they've given you?
Wow, that's a really good question.
Or maybe like some guidance that they provided, maybe something they told you along the way through your journey of life that you've taken on, and you maybe you didn't want to listen in that moment, and then you found yourself like in that moment like, oh, like I remember mom or dad told me this, like things are okay. Like, is there anything you can think of at all?
I would say my mom is like a very big or she's very adamant about standing up for yourself and like not letting people disrespect you. And I think it's very easy to be like a people pleaser. Like I'm a people pleaser. I'm like, oh, I'll take what I can get. Like, thank you so much. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't mean to like, be in the way or anything. But my mom is very much like, no, you need to make sure you stand up for yourself so people treat you with respect. And I think that's such a huge thing in this industry, especially as a young woman, and especially as a young woman of color. Like it's an industry where a lot of people will try to take advantage, unfortunately. There are good people though, which is great. But it's very important to stand up for yourself and to, treat it like a business and treat yourself like a businesswoman, because then people do treat you with respect. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. And that's when, you're able to start productively doing things, because everyone's operating with the same,
same mindset. Yeah. I guess you said that they're very like maybe like chill people, or maybe, I don't know, I've never met them, but do you ever find that people take your kindness for weakness at times? Like being somebody that maybe seems like they're very chilled back, like you come across as like a very calm and like, happy person. And I find that sometimes people will take that and maybe try to use it or recognize or try to think of it as a weakness and try to get one up on you. I found that personally at times people have taken my kindness and think that, they can use it or take advantage of it. But do you ever find that, and especially in this industry, like?
I think especially like, and that's something I'm still working on, because I think sometimes I get confused with like being nice, but then also like being firm and like polite, you know, and like treating people with respect doesn't mean that like you're being rude or being mean or whatever. And so I think definitely when I was like much younger, like I was super naive and just like, yeah, like whatever, sure, like okay, you know, XYZ, letting a lot of things like slide under the rug, and I'm like, whew, this rug is dusty. Like this is not this is not good at all. Yeah. And so I'm definitely still working on it, and I'm still learning. But like, yeah, just really trying to be firm, and you know, there's a time and place for everything, and like, you know, you can still be kind, but like be firm and respectful, and that doesn't mean you have to like kiss up to anybody or like say sorry like all the time. Absolutely. And I think that's something that like I've really had to learn, because I would always just be afraid of like, I don't want them to think I'm a mean person or whatever, but like sometimes you just gotta lay it plainly and be firm in yourself, and for people to really, you know, take you seriously. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Lifelong journey, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's needed. Like you have to kind of show that you can operate in both, you know, both ends.
Absolutely, and especially too, like in business meetings as well, or if you have to negotiate or whatever, you can't just be like, oh please, well, okay, well if you, like, nah. Like, yeah,
like I want this, like let's find a middle point, let's meet, let's both achieve our common goal. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, that's something I'm always working on. For sure. The next song I had here, or I guess I'm not necessarily going to each song on the album, but you know, certain ones that I had questions about. I'm Not From California. Yes. What does California mean to you? Have you been there, or when you were there last, when was that? And how has it impacted the music you make? Yeah, that's a really great question. I went to LA for the first time in 2023, I believe, and that was for a songwriting workshop that I had been selected to be a part of, and it was so much fun. I'd like never been like that deep in the U.S. before, and just getting to learn from just other incredible songwriters was such a beautiful experience. And so I also met my producers there as well, who worked on the whole project with me. Nice. And yeah, I just felt such a strong connection to them. They love jazz a lot, which is something that's huge for me. And I just felt like I could trust them with the project and with the songs I'd been writing over the past few years. And so California definitely holds a sweet spot in my heart, just because I was able to really create music that I really, really loved there with people who I admire so much after like 3 years of not releasing anything. So yeah. Do you ever feel like, because in listening to your music, I really get like the energy of like being outside, running through grass, flower, like I get like that joyful energy, and a lot of people, well, LA kind of has that energy that like when you're there, and even if you're just in the car driving, you can really feel that vibe. And I feel like your type of music, or your music, is the type that you can like listen to in LA. Yeah. Do you ever find that? Like, do you get that? Oh, are you? I guess you said here like I'm not from California, so I'm assuming people tell you like, or ask you like, are you from California?
Gotten that a couple times. Yes. That's cool that you say that. I think a lot of the references that I was giving my producers are songs that you would listen to like while you're on the beach or driving with like the windows down. Put Your Records On by Corinne Bailey Rae is one of those songs that I played for my producers, and I was like, this is the vibe, this is the heart and soul that I want to capture on some of these songs. But I'm definitely more of like a homebody, like stay inside kind of thing for sure. Like, which is maybe not very typical for being in Vancouver, which is so beautiful. Yeah, I'm definitely someone who stays inside. Yeah, there's a lot of hikers, a lot of outdoor #ActiveBC. Yo, people running in the rain with like shorts, and I'm always just like, how are they doing this? Like, I would be freezing right now, but people in Vancouver are built for this. Built for it, I swear. It's Confessions number 2. Never been in a relationship. It's evident that like poetry is very important to you. That's what I get. When did you start writing, and what purpose has it served for you? Yeah, I first want to shout out Desiree McKenzie, who wrote all the poetry on the project, and I'm so grateful for her contributions because she's absolutely incredible. And so she wrote that piece in that confession. But yeah, I've always loved writing. I was the weird kid that would like choose writing over going outside for like recess or lunch break. I would like beg my teachers to stay inside so I could just keep writing. And like, yeah, I would just spend hours and hours and hours at the computer. And I think it's just because I actually just create worlds. And that was just so thrilling for me.
Wow, okay.
And so, yeah, I would say my first love, like even before music, would definitely be writing. And then I guess in school sometimes, like, especially in high school, writing becomes less of like a way to get your creative, you know, spirits and emotions out, and more so like, how do we analyze this piece of literature?
Yeah.
Why is the sky blue in this pic? Like, you know,
yeah.
And so I feel like my love of writing kind of like diminished a little bit like going through high school, but then this getting back into songwriting and being a part of like so many workshops and mentorship programs that are centered around writing, I fell back in love with it. So yeah, it was really important for me to like just to really show my love of writing.
Absolutely.
In writing the songs and playing around with the different conventions. So
definitely.
Yeah.
Do you find that it provides guidance for you at times? Like, do you have like a journal that you write in at all, like in times of, you know, tribulations or things of that sort? Do you find that it gives you that?
Yeah, it's really great getting your emotions out on the paper, which is really nice. And then it's also great to look back on them as well for inspiration for what to write about in terms of songwriting. So
for sure.
I think that's just been like one of the best decisions that I've made, is just like keeping a journal. And I think that also just roots the music in authenticity as well.
Definitely.
Instead of like trying to rack my brain of like, what did I go through, you know, and that I want to write about, which is also cool too. And I sometimes do that. It's also nice being like, oh, on December 15th, 2023, this was going on. And I felt really strongly about this at the time. Like, this seems like a cool thing to write about.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's amazing. What's one lyric from your album that means the most to you? And maybe before you answer, like, again, I noticed the poetry in it. It's very evident. I had a few lines just from the album that like I heard and I was like, wow, that's so powerful. Funny enough, they were on the same song. This song, it says, "I've seen love on other people. I feel like I would wear it best." I felt like I heard that. I was like, wow, that really hits like. That can hit you right there, like in terms of feeling like, wow, like I see something around, but I maybe don't necessarily have that experience, and it's something that like you're longing for. And then the second one being, "Don't get me wrong, I'm complete, fulfilled, blessed endlessly, but complete is not the same as whole." And that, again, another one, like you can really understand like the emotion in that moment. Like I can imagine you writing that on the paper and like, you know, feeling that. So yeah, maybe if not one of those, like are there any other parts or lyrics from your album that, you know, maybe hit close to you, or that you sit and think, wow, that's my favorite thing that I wrote?
I guess I really love the lyrics to Antisocial Butterfly, because I feel like it says a lot of things that I've been feeling. In a way that I feel proud of. And so the opening line is, "I wish I could start a conversation, get in situations where I'm comfortable enough to tell you what I'm thinking or how I'm really feeling, but I'm so insecure." And I think that really encapsulates a lot of the ways that I move in terms of just like being in spaces where I don't really know people. And I'm always just like, oh, if I was more extroverted, like maybe life would be a little different, or like it would be a little bit easier to like connect with people and like form friend groups or whatever and whatnot. And I think that's a lyric that really resonates with me, just because it really describes the way that I feel a lot of the times. So yeah, I would say that one.
That one, yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. I really like that song too.
Thank you.
Could Have Been a Doctor, I guess the next song on the list here. What reaffirms you in knowing that you're on the right path, or the path that you should be? As in, like, what tells you that you're doing what you should be, and maybe that other paths that maybe at one point people tell you that you should go, or that you considered, that aren't actually for you?
I would say the joy that I feel with music. I don't think I've felt that same way with anything else. There's other things that I'm good at, or things that I'm like, oh, I could swing this, like I could do this. But the sheer joy and the light that I feel within me when I do music can't be compared to anything else that I've done.
Wow, yeah.
But I think too, just like I'm as a Christian, like strong believer of God, and the guitar that I currently have, I got it because someone in the congregation at my church donated money for me to get it.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this feels like a sign from God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I was saving up for so long, and like as a 13-year-old with no money, it is hard to find money. Like you can't get a job. Like I was collecting cans and like going to the recycling depot.
It's whatever you can do, yeah.
Yeah, but like $15 every like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like we all did that. I did that too.
Right?
We were all there.
It's a grind. It's a grind. And so I was like, at this rate, I'm gonna get my guitar when I'm like 45.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that like really accelerated things for me, and just having that guitar and the blessing as well has just been such a beautiful thing in my life. So I would say those two things. I always like, whenever I doubt myself, I always just remember like, okay, God helped you get this guitar. Like I feel like God wouldn't just like, play in your face like that. And
absolutely,
there's always a reason behind everything that He does. So
yeah. And being, a follower of Christ, it's important when you can like kind of pray and kind of leave things in God's hands, and eventually when you find that they work out for you, and maybe even if they don't work out the way that you expected, still being gracious and, thanking Him for whatever you're experiencing. It's important, and it definitely is a guidance in seeing whether you are on the path that you should be on, or maybe if you're diverting maybe from what your destiny or what you should be doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I know that the music that you make is impactful for people that are listening to it. How do you know that your music is impactful? Like, do you have people that tell you personally? Do you read messages from people that they send you? Like, how do you know that or maybe, I don't know, maybe you don't get those experiences in recognizing, but yeah, I feel like you probably do. And in what ways do you kind of see that what you're doing is impactful?
That's such a great question. I would say like one of the most beautiful parts of putting this project out has just been like reading messages from people who have been telling me that like they really like the project, or certain songs relate to certain things that they've been going through. And that's not something that I've really experienced a lot in the past, and so it meant so much to me that people were really listening, and I think that's what any artist hopes for. You write these songs and you practice your scales, or you go to your voice lessons, but then someone tells you like, hey, like what you're doing is really making a difference in my life, is like it makes everything worth it. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, hearing from people, or like playing the songs live too, and seeing people's reactions and smiles, and just people just saying nice things afterwards is always just like, it's so sweet, and I'm always just so grateful for the warm reception of the music.
Yeah. I've been able to watch you live a few times, and your stage presence is so evident. Like you don't look scared at all when you're on stage. I want to ask, like, did you ever experience stage fright? Did you have to work through that? Is that something that you deal with today? Is it so far gone past you? Like, what's your experience with that?
I'm always nervous. Like, I'm always so scared. Oh my goodness, because it's such a vulnerable thing. You're putting yourself out there, and people are, ready to take in whatever you're about to put out on the stage. But I saw this video, and Beyonce was like saying that she gets nervous, but it's because she cares. And so I was like, if Beyonce gets nervous, then like, okay, I guess this is cool too. Like I could be nervous as well. And I guess that's a huge thing, right? Like when you really care about something, you want to do well, there is some nerves that come along with that. And so I always want to do my best with every performance, and it is a little nerve-wracking, of course.
For sure.
I guess it's just like finding the courage every time, and just like putting yourself through something that's scary, you know. I heard this one quote and it was just like I think it was like 5 seconds of like being courageous or brave could like change your life in like, the best way possible. So I always try to remember that. I'm like,
that's incredible. 5 seconds of being brave or courageous can change your life.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think that even in the context of what you do is entirely different. It's not just you're on stage just singing or you're on stage just performing an instrument. You're oftentimes doing both.
Yeah.
You're oftentimes having to, like, your vocal hand coordination must be unmatched by this point. I mean,
that's so funny. That's so funny.
Like, I feel like you make it look easy to that extent. So that's
thank you. That's very, very sweet of you.
Yeah.
That's very sweet of you. I feel like there's so many incredible musicians in the city that also play and sing too. And like it's always a joy watching. So
great. So I guess the next phase here, I have a couple rapid fire questions that I want to ask.
Hopefully I'm quick.
Yeah. If you want one-word answers or if you have more to say, feel free. No limit at all. But I'll just fire through the questions after you answer.
Now I'm nervous.
Who's an artist that heavily influenced your sound?
I would say India.RE for sure. I love Amy Winehouse. I love Wes Montgomery, who's this jazz guitarist who's absolutely incredible.
Oh.
I'm listing so many, and he said one, so I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay, all right. One instrument you would love to master?
I feel like it'd be sick to know the saxophone and just play Careless Whisper.
Oh yeah.
Just like whip it out. Like that would be my party trick.
Saxophone is, oh my goodness, it's like playing with like a woodwind instrument as well as like, crazy amount of talent needed.
It's so sick, yeah.
What's the first album you fell in love with?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I would say one that I remember being like, wow, I really love this is Continuum by John Mayer. I remember just being so obsessed with the guitar parts and the melodies and the songwriting of that record.
Nice. Live band or studio recording, what's more exciting?
Ooh, for me?
Yeah.
Live band or studio recording? I would say live band. I think a studio it sounds like really cool to like, oh, I'm going to the studio, you know. But it's a lot of like mechanics, and it's not super natural, you know, like in the way that you would sing it. Like you sing one line like over and over again, and like parts are done differently and stuff. So sometimes it can feel a little isolating versus like with a live band, like the spirit and the energy is there, which is really beautiful. So
I guess maybe the proper comparison would have been like studio recording or live performance, maybe. But I guess it works the same way.
Yes.
Do you typically perform with a band or?
I've started to play more with the band, which has been really, really exciting. For the longest time, it was just like me and my guitar.
Yeah.
But it's really fun to like play with other people and like build things out.
For sure.
So I've been having fun playing with other people.
Neat. Okay, first song you ever wrote. Do you still remember the lyrics?
You know what? Actually, yes. It was on a xylophone, and it was called Piano.
Wow.
I think that tells you all you need to know. Like, it was not good at all.
Is a xylophone a type of piano? I don't know if that's the same family.
Right? Like, are they cousins? Are they distant? See, I don't know.
Good one, though. I like it. I don't know. I didn't say you have to say the lyrics, but as long as I just want to see if you remember them. What's a city you'd love to perform in but haven't yet?
Ooh. Okay. I have 3. Which I hope that's okay.
That's fine, yeah.
Atlanta, because I know the R&B community there is like, wow,
absolutely.
Next level. London as well, because I know the appreciation for R&B there is also like so beautiful. And then Sao Paulo, because I feel like fans in South America, like whenever I see like concerts of my favorite artists, like they're so passionate about music.
Absolutely.
And so I feel like it would be so much fun to play for people who are just such huge lovers of music. So
for sure, and like rightfully so. Like I think The Weeknd had a show there last year. Incredible. I haven't seen, or maybe it's The Weeknd or Chris Brown. I'm not quite sure if I'm mixing one or the other up, but I think they both performed in Sao Paulo like last year, and it was like better than anything I'd ever seen in North America, honestly. Something about that destination particularly.
Yeah, there's something in the water there.
Yeah.
And I like it.
What's one Nigerian dish everyone needs to try at least once?
Okay, well, I think you already know the answer. Jollof rice made by Nigerians is like next level, and it's where it's at. I think it's probably the best thing out there. There's also like, I really like, we have this thing called akara, which is really good, and you have that with bread. But I would say Nigerian jollof.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna ask you the question that follows that because it's controversial. I already know your answer. What's a non-music related skill or hobby that you're really good at?
I love baking.
Wow.
I love baking so much, to my detriment, because I'm obsessed with cake. I think my parents always like, okay, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, it's been the same thing. But yeah, I would say I'm a cake and a spaghetti connoisseur.
Spaghetti's great.
Yeah,
Spaghetti's great.
It's so underrated, I feel like. I feel like people don't appreciate spaghetti enough, but
and I think the great thing about spaghetti is like it can either be a struggle meal or a delicacy. Like it can be one or the other. Like it doesn't matter.
Dichotomy, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the best concert you've ever attended?
Ooh. Wow, that's a really good question.
Or maybe the last concert that you've attended.
My friend Desiree Dawson, who's a local artist in the city, is one of my favorite performers like ever. I love watching her, and there's just such a beautiful like storyline that's always present in all of her performances, and like everything is just so intentional, and she's someone that also speaks a lot about like social and political issues as well, and just does it so seamlessly through her music. So I would say Desiree.
Okay.
Desiree Dawson.
Great. And last one here. What's the last song you've played on repeat?
Oh, Yes It Is by Leon Thomas.
Oh, that's great.
That man is so talented. Like, whew.
That album with Mutt?
Yeah. One of my favorites. Like, and I think that he just released a remix of Mutt with Chris Brown.
With Chris Brown, I heard that.
Leon Thomas is so talented.
Chris Brown went crazy on that.
The run, like, yeah, vocal mastery, just yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so I guess what do you have planned next? Like, what can people expect from you next? Kind of going into the rest of the year before the summer.
Yeah.
Anything special? Anything to look out for at all?
That's a great question. I'm doing a lot of writing right now for new music, so I'm really excited about that. But I'm going to be performing at a couple spaces, and I post everything that I'm doing on my social media. So if you want to keep up, you should follow me at Bukola Music on all social media platforms.
There you go. That was my next question. Where can people find you? So at Bukola.
Quick with the plug, yes, at Bukola Music.
At Bukola Music. Make sure you guys check it out. Check her out, check everything that she has coming out. Amazing artist from the city here, whether you're from Vancouver, you're within Canada, you're in North America, or wherever you are on the globe. Great music, music resonates with everybody, and I think that you're definitely one to look out for.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you.
Oh, no worries. I'm just the guy. Thank you so much for watching this episode of For the Record here on Surf Rap Platinum Network. My name is Christo. We're here at Bukola. Thank you so much, and we will check y'all next time.
I made a way and no burning these bridges. I keep on stacking these digits. Money unless they could buy the new business. I'm in a